We've got a nice little chat tonight. I'm really looking forward to this. Been waiting for a little while. Anthony Roberts is here, the man behind St Mary's Church, or was, now known as the Colchester Arts Centre. And well, welcome along anyway. Thank you for coming in.
No, it's great to be here. Really nice. And what a lovely sessions that you've been recording. I've just been listening to these last few that you've been playing now, and the quality is absolutely brilliant. It's really good, and so it's nice. I feel very grateful to be here, to be asked here, and I'm looking forward to the chat. Well, I have to say, if you think that I wasn't a musician at all, although I will not be playing anything with my artist friend Richard Lazell, who's with me here tonight, I have played in many bands over the years, and I can tell you that because I've been thrown out of many, many bands. I can give you a masterclass on how it is to be thrown out of bands. I've been thrown out in many
what was the instrument that you played then?
I was a drummer.
Okay, right. And still a drummer, or is it just something you've actually thrown away as well?
If anyone will take... I'm available. I've just checked the diary. It seems that I am available.
You're fully booked till tomorrow, then, aren't you? Okay, so Anthony Roberts, go back to 1991. I think it's my sort of basic research says that was the start of you managing the Arts Centre. Is that right?
You are spot on there, young man.
Am I ready? Take your headphones on, will you?
Oh, right.
Otherwise I'll have to tell you off, because we can't hear you, and then you'll hear yourself.
Got it.
Yeah, that's better. So come on into the mic. Right, yes, so it's 1991. Where were you before? Where's the background on all this then? Where did it all start?
Immediately before 1991, I was in Barnet, North London, at a small art centre, the Old Bull Arts Centre. And previous to that, it was Salisbury Arts Centre. Previous to that, I was back at the Old Bull. But, so that was 1991. During most of the 80s, I spent my time bundling around small pub theatres and pub venues, really. Music mainly was my thing, and in the 80s, back then, was we were following what we called indie music. And indie music now is sort of like a genre. It's kind of like jangly guitar music with people looking at their shoes, generally boys. And
there was plenty of that on Saturday, actually.
Yeah,
very much that.
That's the kind of deal that you get with indie music. But indie music back in the 80s meant, the literal interpretation of the word independent music, which meant that you were taking ownership of the kind of thing. It was the kind of post-punk rock ownership, kind of lo-fi, do-it-yourself kind of ethic. And these bands were fetching up on Peel all the time. So you would go and see one gig, and it would be like 5 bands. It would be Bogshed, Stump, the Kevin Staples bands, 2 bands that you'd never heard of as well. And then next week you'd be going along to another one, and etc., etc. And because my brother and my friends were in these bands, by that time I had already been thrown out to realise this probably wasn't my calling. And so it was that kind of 80s Thatcherite kind of culture and kind of feeling, mood, if you like, that drew me into working at a small art centre. And I got taken onto a small art centre, not as a promoter or a publicist or anything like that, but because they were taking on people who wanted to help in the building team. So my first job was like putting the wiring up in a small pub venue, the Old Bull Arts Centre, back in Barnet, North London. And after about 2 months, they realised I had some aptitude for publicity, and so I got taken on into the publicity team. I got my first full-time job at Salisbury Arts Centre. And the thing is with Arts Centre, Lox, is that they are small, very kind of like do-it-yourself venues. And so if someone leaves, rather than a proper advertising process with protocol, the likelihood is that you'll be invited to do it by dint of the fact that you used to sit next to the person who did it before. So by osmosis, you apply those skills. So the guy that was programming the music left, and they said, "Okay, and
it's your turn.
And of course, the other thing was I had loads of ideas because I had all these bands. The 80s as well, with the very first time comedy clubs opened in North London. There used to be 2, the Red Rose Comedy Club and Bananas in the Balham. They used to be,
Did you go to the Jongleurs as well? Because that was one of my favourite haunts. I know that was a bit later, probably later part of it.
Yeah, no, it was before.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, before Jongleurs started, and there was 2. And now, comedy's so ubiquitous, and there's so much at the Arts Centre as well, that it seems extraordinary. But I saw Joe Brand, Eddie Izzard, Frank Skinner, Alan Davis, the mainstay of Saturday night TV.
So some of those you put onto the Arts Centre as well?
Some of those we put on, often before they were, always before they were famous, really, when they were just named. So when I was at Salisbury and they said, "Do you want to programme the music and do this and that?" And I said, "Yes, please," because I had, all this stuff of going around the 80s, seeing loads of stuff. I was a fan. I'm still a fan. So if you go around and see all that, and then you get a chance to put some of it on and realise I had an aptitude to kind of programme and promote and those kind of things, and So that was the kind of journey that brought me to Colchester in 1991, when a job as director. Goodness me, director, I wanted to be director.
Gone from drummer to director.
Drummer to director, yeah. Via car park attendant, which I was for a couple of years as well, but that's another story, I guess. And so that's when I fetched up in Colchester.
Because your background is drama, isn't it?
Well, I did English and drama at university, and I'm interested in theatre. I do a bit of acting in Colchester every now and then as well. But really, it's a mashup. I'm promiscuous in my tastes. I like things that are new and that are different. I like things that I don't really understand. That's why I'm such a fan of Richard Lazell. We're going to a concrete factory tomorrow. It's my job. He was telling me about it. I had to ring up and say, "Can we come to your concrete factory?" The guy said, "Why?" And I didn't really have an answer. I said, "We're doing a bit of research, and it's an interesting kind of thing." But that kind of when it pushes you into areas that you don't really, I call there's not understanding good and not understanding bad. Not understanding good. The bad is when you don't understand it, don't care, who cares, what's that, boring, etc. Not understanding good is you don't get it, but there's something going on. You get something happens quite often live, can happen on the radio. First time I heard Ramones on the John Peel show.
Oh, that was a big change.
It's like, and they'd finished within a minute, because, the Ramones tracks aren't long. It's not like you're listening to a Yes album, is it?
It's a massive impact, though, wasn't
it? So it was on there, and then it was gone. And I remember looking at the room. I looked at the room and thought, nothing's ever going to be the same again. That kind of light bulb moment, that kind of shift. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know that, that this come, but I just knew that there had something had moved. And that happens, doesn't have to be a record, it can be anything, really. It can be one of the first times I saw Richard Lazell. I'm talking about him because he sat here, but this guy was hugely influential on me. That's why I asked him to come up and do that project at Jumbo. I remember him running around on the floor of the South Bank with 2 plant pots hanging from his arms, while we, the audience, were watching him, and he was puzzling everybody. Was absolutely just baffled by this strange kind of gliding plant pot that was running around, and I didn't know why I was doing it, but I knew there was something happening that was kind of like shifting me into a different room, and that that's kind of like where I am today. So in that sense, 1991, 1980s, 2018, it's the same.
You still get involved in theatre, don't you? Do the Christmas Carol? Someone told me that you do the Christmas Carol at the...
Yeah, I do a reading of Christmas Carol. I've managed to memorise it. So it's a 2-hour thing, and it's like advertised as reading, and I read it off, and it's such a fantastic story that if you had a robot reading it, people would say, that's really good. So if you can just put a bit of welly into it, people absolutely love it.
Because it is a one-man show. I've seen Patrick Stewart do it up in town somewhere. I think it was quite very energetic. He was running around all over the stage.
Yeah, no, it's a lovely thing to do. At the end of it, people always say to me, they don't say, "Oh, you made characters come alive, what a magnificent story, what a talent you have." They say, "How do you remember all that?" That's the only thing.
That's the only thing.
Yeah, that's it. That just
nothing to do with
that'll do. I'll take that.
It's nothing to do with the acting whatsoever.
No, that's all. No.
But some of the bands you've booked, Coldplay, the early days.
Yeah, Coldplay. They were support. I think they were switching bill. Yeah, £200.
Yeah,
Coldplay.
really, that's what it was it? How much it cost?
£200. Yeah.
How long ago was that then?
That would have been in the mid-90s, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
So they really
very, very early.
leaps and bounds now. You don't think you can get them back just now then? Just for a casual one.
Do you know what? And I wouldn't really, that wouldn't be interesting for me. Everyone would say, oh, that's fantastic, get a name. But people can go and see that. We did that, I'm not really interested in Coldplay now. I'm interested in the guys that you're playing.
Yes, exactly.
The ones that are sending me stuff, the people that I've never heard of.
Yeah. Well,
stuff that,
that's exactly why we do this. I mean, for me, being a musician for, nearly 40 years, I found that, I listen to what people are doing now as what I was doing 25 years ago, trying to make a living out of it and very badly struggling, I have to say. But there's some amazing, and particularly now with the self-promotions and the platforms available. So, yeah, it's an essential part, really, and it's all equal in that respect.
Yeah, so what the Internet's done is a democratised distribution. Previously, you had to be, it's filtered through a record company at the very lowest level, or, it's filtered through a TV company, or filtered through, you had to be chosen. You had to be selected by a kind of like small band of elite. Punk rock kind of challenged that when you had it, if you just had enough people to push over a phone box and, nick the 2Ps or whatever, then you can make a 7-inch single. That was a kind of like ownership, and the internet kind of like broadened that as well. So,
it feels to me at the moment, particularly now that I do this, that there are two parallel industries. The record industry, perhaps, that are looking at the YouTube and Facebook hits to take a chance, and then obviously the individuals that are making their own platforms running parallel with that, it seems.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there.
It's just a very interesting fact, and these platforms are essential anyway. Okay, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'll play a track. We'll come back in a second. I will get...